Hello Apex hours viewers. So this is our fifth session of MuleSoft for Salesforce developers, and we are going to discuss about the developing part first. First part, we have seen designing of APIs in our previous sessions. So from this particular session, we will be going to see the development part. So again, for those who don't know me, I am Shravan Lingam, one of the MuleSoft ambassadors and meetup leader. I have 8+ years of experience and I own MuleSoft-TechZone YouTube channel. So you can follow me on all social media platform. And without wasting time, let's go. So today's agenda would be like we will be starting developing APIs, and we'll be discussing about Mule4 message structure. We will see what tool we will be using for our development purpose, and we will see how the project structure is, and we will start with actual things like flow, subflow, private flow, and connectors and rest of the things. I will try to deploy a small application so that you will try to get some hands-on experience, and it will be more interesting for you to get started with, and we will see how to debug an application. If this video is too long, probably I will explain this debugging of the application in our next session, but if I see that the content of the video length is less, we can cover it in this session itself. So recap of our previous session, very quick recap. We have continued our RAML designing, and then we have learned all about like using include types, resource types, and etc. I always suggest guys, please do some hands-on from your side. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section. And how to use mock URL, publish to exchange. And for more information on about RAML, you can always visit raml.org. You will get very good documentation. As this is for MuleSoft for Salesforce developers, and it is for beginner sessions, we won't be covering all the topics, but whatever topics I have covered, it will help for you to clear the MCD level 1 certification and to get started with MuleSoft. So without wasting time, what is Mule4 message structure? So MuleSoft, when we start with development, this is very important to know what is Mule4 message structure. And coming back to here, so we have something called Mule event. Okay, whatever it runs inside a Mule application from connector to connector, that is called Mule event. Again, I will explain those what is Mule event and all when it comes to hands-on part, but this is very important in terms of concept. Also for certification purpose, they might ask question. So consider Mule event is nothing but a set of information that is transmitting from one connector to the another connector to go from place A to place B. That part, whatever information we have, we call it Mule event. Now consider Mule event is like top hierarchy, and what does Mule event contains? So Mule event contains Mule message, when Mule message is nothing but payload plus attributes and variables, and if there is any error that is occurred within the application, we have some error information. Now Mule event is nothing but the combination of Mule message plus variables plus error information. This is really important because in examination they might ask what is Mule event, what does Mule event consist of. Then you have to say Mule message plus variables plus error information. Then what is Mule message again? Mule message is nothing but your payload plus attributes. So this is about Mule event or the Mule message structure. You have to understand there are just three things, right? Mule event contains Mule message, variables, and error information, and in turn Mule message is the combination of payload and attributes. Okay, in simpler terms, this is again I am trying to explain in a layman's language. In simpler terms, Mule4 message is like an envelope. Okay, Mule4 message is consider it like an envelope that contains a letter, and that letter you can call it as payload. Payload is nothing but the actual information. Okay, and some information could be on the outside of your envelope, and those are called attributes. Attributes are coming from the caller. Okay, and sticky notes you can consider like variables that you can attach and place to write down any problems that might occur. That is called error information. Okay, so consider like an envelope. The envelope contains a letter, which is payload, and some information outside the envelope, that is called attributes. Some sticky notes that are variables, and if you have any problems that you occur, that is the error information. So all of these components work together to help you process and manage data in your Mule4 application. Again, if you want to talk about payload, in technical terms, it is the actual message content, the original message. Okay, and very important thing that you need to understand is this payload can be overridden. Okay, all these terms, right, can be overridden. What is like actual message content, you will get to know when you start hands-on. So don't worry about it if you are not understanding at this point. Okay, but you just need to know that payload is nothing but the actual message content, and that can be overridden. Attributes are something like, it is kind of a metadata information. For example, if you have query parameters, we have seen in our raml specification, right, query parameters, URI parameters, or if you are picking up a file, the file size, etc., all these are metadata information. So that comes under attributes, and these are immutable. When I say immutable, that means you cannot change or alter the attributes. Attributes stays the same way. Okay, payload you can alter, but not the attributes. And coming to variables, like if there is any way that you want to store some kind of information, okay, it's kind in the middle of the flow or in the middle of the application, you can always use variables. So it is just for you can store some kind of data and information, and it can be used across the application as long as you are connecting the flows with flow reference. Again, connecting the flow reference terms, it will be new for you, but that you will cover in our coming sessions. Now, error information. In case any error occurs in the application, an error object is produced within the Mule application that contains all the information related to the error. So now you can see 4 different things on my screen that all belongs to a Mule event. So if someone asks you a question, what does Mule event consists of? You have to say Mule event is the combination of Mule message plus variables plus error information. Sometimes in your documentation and all, you won't find error information, but error information is also part of Mule event. Now, again, if someone asks what is Mule message? So Mule message is only about payload and attributes, not the rest of the content. So you have to be very careful when it comes to certification exam. All right, you can refer to my diagram which is there in our previous slides. Now, coming to my screen, you can see a screen which is having like project structure and canvas and some connectors and all. This is your Anypoint Studio tool. Okay, Anypoint Studio is a tool that we use for development purpose, but there is a new tool that has come, or it was released recently, that is called Anypoint Code Builder. Okay, but we don't have much information on that yet, so still developers are using Anypoint Studio. This particular Anypoint Studio tool is very heavy because it comes with inbuilt Maven or Java libraries and everything, so it can be around 2 GB also. So don't worry, it reads a good amount of RAM on your laptop. If you are using your laptop with 4 GB, it might be very slow. 4 GB RAM will be very slow. I would strongly suggest to use 8 GB RAM or 16 GB RAM to start your hands-on. So whatever you are seeing on my screen, this is Anypoint Studio, how it looks. So let's go take a tour. Like this part, whatever you are seeing on my left side, this is called Project or Package Explorer. This is where all your projects resides. You can open or close the projects. So that space is called Project or Package Explorer. And this part, whatever I highlighted, is called Canvas. This is the place where we drag and drop the connectors to build the flows. Okay, I told you, right, MuleSoft is all about like no code or less code. I don't say no code, but it has less code because it is all about dragging and dropping the connectors and configuring them. If there is any data transformation, we will write some logics, but everything will be done on this canvas. And this part is called console and other stuff, like whenever you are deploying the application, what is happening and all, you can view those consoles and other logs in this part. And this is called Mule palette, which is really important for your development purpose. It will be on the right side of your Anypoint Studio. So this Mule palette is nothing but it is a place where you can find your connectors. All that I told you, right, you can drag and drop connectors. So this is the place where you will be dragging and dropping the connectors into your canvas, which is in the middle of the place. And coming to canvas, okay, before that, let's download and check out how we can download Anypoint Studio. All right, so before going to Mule project structure, let's go back to our downloading of Anypoint Studio. So just search it on Google, like download Anypoint Studio, and you can click on this download Anypoint Studio and Mule. So we are going to use Anypoint Studio 7 version, 7 plus version, and Mule 4 runtime. All that you have to do is you can select one of this. So for now you have to go choose this option Mule and Studio, then select the version. If you want to use latest version, you can use the latest version, but if you want to use previous version, you can use the previous version. So you can always go with the latest versions and select the operating system. If it is a Windows laptop, you can use Windows. If it is a Mac, you can use Mac. So I have Mac OS, so I have already downloaded it, but if it is a Windows machine, you can always click on Windows. So for now I will click on Mac OS. You can give your credentials and details, okay, and your details. Don't worry if you don't have a company email, you can always use your Gmail account and click on download. Once you click on download, it will start downloading. Okay, there are some prerequisites, please look at them. And yeah, as I said, like Java, it comes with inbuilt Java as well and inbuilt Maven. The Studio is heavy, so it will be like around 1.7 or 2 GB also. So once you have downloaded, this is the icon that you will be seeing, Anypoint Studio, the icon over here. So just if you click it, I am using 7.15 version, but you will be also having the latest version when you are downloading it. So when you click on that icon, this is the first pop-up that you will get. It will ask for you to create a workspace or use some existing workspace. Workspace is nothing but where your projects are stored on your local folder. For example, in Windows machine, you have local disk C or D, whatever you do it on your tool, right? So everything will be saved in this particular folder. So try to create a new workspace, a good workspace. Just that folder should have only your MuleSoft projects, and just click on launch. Initially it will take some, you will find some glitches or you will find difficulties in opening or running some applications on your Anypoint Studio. Don't worry, if you have any issues, please comment on the comment section. We will try to help to resolve this issue. So as I showed in our previous slide, so this part, so the left side part is called Package Explorer, or I can say Project Explorer, and the middle part is called the Canvas. You don't see anything because we didn't create any project or we didn't open any project. So first let us do one thing. Again guys, I am using Mac OS, but it will be the same in Windows machine as well, all the options, so don't worry about it. So first thing that you have to do is go to File, click on new project, Mule project. I want you guys to do the same thing. Pause my video, do the same thing, follow the instructions, so that it will be easy for you to do the hands-on part. So my project name, so Apex Hours, let me name it Apex Hours, and the runtime by default it will be like whatever latest runtime you have. You will be choosing that, so 4.4.0, and rest leave it as it is. We are not going to discuss these options because this is for advanced users, not for the beginner users. Okay, so click on finish. That's it. A MuleSoft project, a default project template is getting created. Now as I said, on the left side you can see different projects. I have like more than 10 projects on my Anypoint Studio, but this is the project that we have created. Okay, so I won't expand it now because we have some information that is coming in our coming slides. And on the left side, this is called Package Explorer or Project Explorer, and this part, whatever you see, so here you can read it. To get started, drag an operation or scope from the Mule palette. For our convenience, I am using the term called connectors, but operation and scope are one and the same. Okay, these are all connectors. So connectors are there in Mule palette, okay, on my right side, and the console part and all, you can see it here. Guys, this tool is very easy, like it is an Eclipse based tool, so you can drag and drop things. Like for example, if you want to drag and drop Mule palette connector, you can see now the view changes. If not, you can go back. If you want to reset, or if you're lost somewhere in the view, what you can always do is go to like edit, or give me 1 second, Windows perspective. Okay, so reset perspective, you can click on reset perspective and click on reset. It will come back to your original position. Okay, if you lost somewhere, all that you have to do is just search for this perspective option within Windows tab, okay, and click on reset perspective. It will come here. And as I said, like to get started, it is asking to drag and drop. What you can do is click on this just drag and drop. So this is place where we can start getting created with the flows and subflows and etc, which we'll be seeing in our coming flows, coming sessions. So I will delete it right now. Okay, so this is how it looks, Anypoint Studio. Now we will see the structure of MuleSoft project. Okay, that is our next part. So we have covered this. So Mule project structure. Okay, every project in Mule 4 is Mavenized. That is the beauty of Mule 4. So you don't have to do extra configurations, or you don't have to create pom.xml. Again, for those who are new to MuleSoft or who are new for coding or APIs, you don't need to worry about pom.xml or stuff. But for your understanding, I will tell you what is pom.xml. Pom.xml is a file where you can mention all your project related information, and also you can have the dependencies. Again, this is like too much technical for the initial learners, but whatever dependencies, if you want to download something, right, you can mention it in pom.xml. Again, most of the work will be done by MuleSoft itself. You don't have to do anything. When you drag and drop the connectors, automatically the pom.xml is updated automatically. So you don't really have to do much with pom.xml. But for your information, you have to understand that every Mule4 project is a Mavenized project, which means it will contain pom.xml file. Next, all Mule XML files are placed under source main Mule folder. Okay, I will show you in the project structure. And any other related files which are not Mule XMLs can be placed under source main resources or source test resources. And Mule artifact JSON, there is a file. Again, I don't want to discuss about Mule artifact JSON at this point of time. Just remember that three things are important for a Mule project. So that is pom.xml and the source folder, source main Mule, everything, main Mule, main resources, everything comes under the source folder, and Mule artifact JSON. These three files are important for you to get started with or to deploy any application. These three are mandatory. And each Mule application XML has a message flow, which looks like a graphical view. I will show you again. Global elements, which contains all configuration details, and configuration XML, which is the XML version of graphical view. Okay, so let me go to Anypoint Studio. Again, this Apex servers is something which we have created now. When you click on this expand icon, you can see multiple folders here, right? Till here, this is our Apex servers project. You can see pom.xml file that I have mentioned here. It is a Mavenized project. Then Mule artifact JSON file that I have mentioned here, right? And then everything like source, this all comes under source folder. Okay, this main and Mule are nothing but our subfolders. I told you that all Mule files are placed under source main Mule. So by default, a Mule flow is created. That is what, when we open, it will open this one. And I mentioned here each Mule app XML, that is this one, this is Mule application XML, has three things. One is message flow, one is global elements, and the configuration XML. So message flow here, global elements, and configuration XML. So this is message flow where you will drag and drop. That is what I called as graphical view here. Okay, graphical view. This is the graphical view. And whatever we are dragging and dropping, it will automatically convert into XML. For now, let me delete this and save it. You can see right now the XML, because backend it all converts into XML code. Okay, you don't have to write any XML code, but when you drag and drop, automatically this will convert into configuration XML. You can see we have only 6 lines, isn't it? Now, when I drag and drop some connector, let's forget about what set payload connector is all about. If you go to configuration XML, you can see 9 lines are appearing. Why? Because when I dragged and dropped it, you can see set payload connector. This is the set payload connector, right? So automatically it is appending over here. Okay, we have something like payload here. Let me write my names Ravan. So whenever I am changing something in message flow, it will automatically convert into the XML. So that is the XML view of your message flow. That is what I have informed here. And global elements is the place where you will have, for example, if you are connecting to Salesforce or if you are connecting to database, you will be creating configuration details, right? You are creating connections. So those details will appear here. But these things will come in our next sessions. So don't worry about it. So for now, let me delete this again because I have to explain what a flow is and all. So that is all about Mule project structure. Now, hope so I am explaining now the actual hands-on part gets started. So just concentrate. If you are stuck anywhere, please take a pause, go back and listen once, twice or thrice. That always helps. Okay, no one can learn everything in a very first go, so try to revise, and if there is any hands-on, you can pause it and do along with me. That will be helpful. Okay, now what is a flow, subflow and private flow? Now that we have learned about Mule message structure, we have to know the next thing that we have to know in our development of APIs is flow, subflow and private flow. For now, think, so any application, okay, any MuleSoft application can consist at least a single flow. Okay, that is mandatory. If there is no flow, there is no code and you cannot deploy any application. So at least it should have a single flow, or it can break up processing into discrete flows and subflows that you can add to your application and connect them together. For example, you have a logic where you have to add two numbers, subtract two numbers, divide two numbers and multiply two numbers, right? So all these operations, we can have it in our multiple flows, or you can have it in a single flow, but it should be in a, we should have some flows at least for within our applications. Okay, so and private flows and subflows can be triggered only by flow reference or by data weave lookup. This data weave lookup I can explain you in the coming session, but whenever I am talking about private flows and subflows, this cannot run on their own. Okay, someone else should be calling these private flows and subflows, so that someone else can call using this flow reference connector. Okay, again, all these are theoretical part. When it comes to our hands-on part, you will get to know. All right, now we have three things now: flow, private flow and subflow. We have to understand the basic concept of these things. Again, there might be questions that they can ask in our MCD level 1 certification exam, so concentrate on the concept. So flow has three parts. One is source, process and error handling part. Okay, you should definitely keep something in the source place. Okay, I will show you in our Anypoint Studio how it looks, but if you see here, this is a typical flow we call. Okay, whenever you're coding something, this is how it looks, and this part is called source. Okay, on the leftmost part we have called source. Okay, and you can have only one source. That means you can place only one connector in the source place, and this part is called the process part. Okay, then this is the place where we keep on adding connectors. So we will write our logic, step 1, step 2, step 3, what should happen first, what should happen next, all this stuff is called the process part. Okay, and here you can place more than one or more connectors. Mandatory is like one. You can place as many connectors as you want in the process place. Okay, this is called error handling part, where you are like, when any error occurs, how are you handling the errors? That part is here. So three different parts: source, process and error handling. In interviews and all, they will ask you the question, what are the differences between flow, subflow and private flow? You should be able to answer this. A flow is nothing but it has a source, process and error handling part, and you should definitely keep something in the source. On my left side you can see something called registration flow. There is a connector called listener connector, right? You are placing a connector, so that is why it is called as flow. Well, then what is a private flow? What is the difference between private flow? Okay, a private flow has, again, same like flow, normal flow, it has three parts: source, process and error handling part. But it's called a private flow when we don't keep anything in source part. What does it mean? You can see on my screen there is an image. So you can see in the previous flow you have something on our source part, that is the HTTP listener. That's why it is called as flow. But here it is a private flow, so we don't have anything in the source. But again, it is rest of the part is common, like we don't have anything in the source, it is empty. But in the process phase you can keep as many connectors as you want, and as usual we have error handling part. Okay, so the only difference between if someone asks you what is the difference between a flow and private flow, you can say like both have these three phases like source, process and error handling. The only difference is private flow don't have we won't keep anything in the source part. That is why I told when I was explaining the first slide, These private flows or subflows will not be triggered on its own. Someone else should be calling it using flow reference or something like that. Again, that I will show in our coming sessions. Now coming to subflow. A subflow do not have source part at all, and even the error handling part. Okay, it has only process part. It's very simple to understand. Okay, error handling for subflows are handled by the calling flow or the private flow. So if you look at this, oh sorry, this is the wrong picture that I have shown, so ignore that. I will show you how subflow looks like. Before going into the connectors, let me go ahead and start something. So here, if you want to search for flow, you can see flow and subflow. You won't be able to see private flow. I will tell you the reason. Click on flow, drag and drop. I told you, right, there are three places: source, process and error handling part. All these three are empty right now. So this is like, for now it is called nothing, just an empty flow we can call. So if you keep something in source, so for example, as all our APIs are HTTP based protocol, right? That is what I have shown you example. What are RESTful APIs? RESTful APIs runs on HTTP protocol. So usually in the source we will keep listener. Why listener? Listener is something so someone is sending the request, you have to listen here. Consider this as your ear. Okay, someone is calling you and you have to listen to that request. So that is why we call it as listener. Okay, in source you can keep listener here for now. Then this is the process phase. You can drag and drop and keep it in the process phase. There is a thin dotted line, the vertical dotted line, which will separate source and process. If I try to put another HTTP listener here, the left side of our thin dotted line, it will not allow you to keep anything here, because source, you can keep only one connector inside source part, but you can always keep as many connectors as you want in the process phase. Also in the error handling, whatever error handling you have, you can always keep connectors related to error handling, and you can just, you know, copy paste them. So this is typical flow. This is called as flow, where we have source, which is like thin dotted line. Left side of that is called source and right side is called process, and this is error handling part. This is called a flow. Now you delete this connector in the source is empty right now, which means now this is called as private flow. So this flow, earlier there was a listener, so someone sends the request, someone is hearing. Now imagine that you don't have an ear here. Okay, you don't have anything unless and until someone push you to listen, it will be called. So that is it will be done by flow reference, which we'll be covering in the next session. But rest of the part is same, like just like a flow. Now this is called private flow. Okay, and let me choose subflow. I have shown a wrong diagram. Here you can see when you drag and drop the flow, it doesn't show even the source part or error handling part. All that you have is a process phase. So you can place only the connectors in the process. So listener you cannot keep because it comes under source, but request and some different connectors you can drag and drop here. Okay, yeah, so you can keep on adding just like this. So when it comes to subflow, only, you know, this part process phase is nothing but this one. Now let me quickly add all three in one. I will double click this one so that you can view here. So here I will drag and drop another flow so that you can understand what is flow, subflow and private flow. So I will name this flow as flow, just for you can name your flows. Okay, and this, so let me first complete the flow. So I told you in flow you should have at least one source part, not at least, only one source part, and then you can add as many connectors as you want here. It is not, at least one process thing should be there. It is not mandatory to have more, you know, 2 or 3. Based upon your logic you will be adding them. And then error handling, you can place only specific connectors inside error handling. Okay, so this is flow, and this is private flow. Let me rename this private flow. You can if you are not comfortable with this view, you can always double click. You can adjust this, you know, studio lens and all here. Okay, so flow, private flow and subflow. Let me drag and drop subflow. So these three are really important because all the coding whatever you do, you will be doing only in this these three. Again, please note that you don't have any special connector for private flow. You will just drag and drop the private actual flow, and you won't keep anything in the source part. That is called private flow. And again, in subflow you can rename it like subflow here. Okay, save it, and then drag and drop as many connectors as you want in your process phase. So this is the difference between flow, private flow and subflow. You should be able to answer all the basic questions, okay, when it comes to interviews or examination. So let me delete this again because it doesn't make sense for now. Coming back to this slide, our next thing is connectors. You have already seen some connectors that I have drag and drop. Okay, MuleSoft has like thousands of connectors, so just based upon your use case, when I say thousands of connectors, even the operations comes into count. Okay, so just whatever use you have, if you want to connect to Salesforce, you have a Salesforce connector. If you want to connect to database, you have a database connector. Okay, we are calling them as operations or connectors, doesn't matter, it is one and the same. I told you, right, we won't be writing any code. All that we are doing is we are dragging and dropping the connectors and configuring the required information required. Okay, so we will start, as I said, this session we are going to start our development of APIs. So we will start with HTTP listener connector first. Okay, what is this HTTP listener? Again, don't go into deep, just understand. Always, like, whenever there is a connector, all that you have to know is, like, first listens to the request. This HTTP listener, this is something which looks like this on the screen. You can see the diagram. So HTTP listener is used to listen to the request which clients or user sends. Again, in my sessions, I will use number of different technical terms. Clients, consumers, users, everyone is the same. I told you in the first session. Client is the one who asks for the information. Server or end user are nothing but they process this request and send back the response. So listener is used to listen. Just imagine your ear. You are listening to someone's request. If someone is asking you, that means you are hearing, right? You are listening. That's how that name came from. Okay, listener is the which listens to the request which clients or consumers or users sends. What are the mandatory configuration details required? I told you, right? MuleSoft drag and drop and configure the connector. Okay, all that you need to know is you need mandatory configuration details are nothing but the host, port and the path. Okay, so that someone can configure those details from their side and call your application. Next is, by default it accepts all kind of methods if nothing is specified. I told you, right, for any HTTP, an API is a request. Okay, it is an endpoint will have like host, port, path, right, and also method. I told you, we have seen in the designing our YAML. If you are not defining anything in specific, it accepts all kind of methods like get, post, put, delete, anything. All right, and the second connector that I wanted to explain is set payload connector. Here also I have given the wrong diagram. I should have a set payload connector diagram. I will show you in our hands-on. The set payload component lets you update the payload of the message. Payload is, I told you, right, in Mule event. Okay, in Mule event has message plus error, message plus variables plus error information. Again, Mule message is nothing but it consists of payload and attributes. So the set payload component lets you update the payload of the message. I told you payload can be overwritten, right? So that is the purpose it will serve. All right, and the payload can be a literal string or any data view expression. I will show you what is data view expression in our hands-on part. So mandatory detail configurations, this is very important. Whenever you are dragging and dropping some connector, whenever you are using some connector, you should always know what are the mandatory configuration details required. That's the only thing that you need to do, because you're not coding, you're configuring, right? So mandatory configuration required is the value. You have to put something in the value space. Okay, for example, it can be hello world, or it can be just payload, or it can be attributes.queryparams. I will show you in the coming sessions. But yeah, by default, if you are not specifying anything, hash within square brackets you see payload, that is the default value. One thing you must observe here, all the values, even if it is a string or payload, here payload is a syntax, okay, hello world is a string, that's why we kept within double quotes, okay. So all these are within hash, then within square brackets you are writing something that is called Mule expression language or data view expression, okay, data view expression we call it. The syntax for Mule data view expression any code, it will be enclosed within hash square brackets, so you have to get used to this notation. All right, so let's go to hands-on. So what we will do is we will see how HTTP listener looks like, then how set payload looks like, then we will build a small simple REST application for for you to get started with, so that you will get more interest on deploying the application, and then debugging an application. Clear? So I don't think I will cover the debugging of the application because we have already run 35 minutes. So I will cover this debugging of an application in our next section, where we will be discussing about scope of the variables and all the stuff. Let's go back to Anypoint Studio. As I said, this is the place where you will start building flows. For now, I am going to explain step by step how to do it, but again in coming session, we will get practice. You have to do practice on this. And as I am doing here, pause the video, you do it from your side as well, okay. Try to use two computers, one to watch my video and one where you can practice the session. So let's go with the flow first. Every application, Mule application, should have at least one flow. When I say flow, I told you like we have to keep something in source. Now as we are developing a simple REST application, API or application, I should have HTTP listener, okay. Usually HTTP listener will be like within HTTP, and your so on the left side it is called module, and these are operations, okay. Core is a module, socket is a module, and for each module you will have some set of operations, but I keep using this term called connector, so get used to it, okay. Which one I have to select? I have to select listener, not the request, because I am not requesting someone. I have to create an application who will send the request, and I will be listening to their request. That is my purpose, right? Imagine you have a restaurant example like waiter, right? Now you are going to create what waiter is going to do. So waiter will listen to the request by the customer, and he will process it. That, remember I was saying like he will process the request, so that is the place where we have to keep. This is the place we have to keep. So for now I will drag and drop set payload. If you don't know where set payload is, you can always search here. You can see set payload, it is under core itself. If you go to core components, you can see set payload will be somewhere over here, okay. Set payload, drag and drop set payload. Again, sometimes this is new for you, dragging and dropping, you will be you will misplace in the canvas, and it will create a separate flow. All that you can do is delete it, don't worry about it, it's all about practice. So just drag and keep it in the right place here, okay. Process. Now we have a source, one listener, the waiter who will listen to the request, then he will go to kitchen and process the request, and he has to send back the response to the customer, right? That is what this thin line here, you don't worry about it because this is just a graphical view, okay. So here the listener sends, the waiter will listen to the request, go to process the request, and then send back the response to the customer again, okay. Now save it. Now coming back to HTTP listener component, again set payload component connector. I told I have given a wrong I will update this later. So this is our connector, set payload connector. Now coming back to double click on this connector to configure the connector, okay. Double click on this, you will get this connection configuration details here. So I told you like mandatory details for HTTP listener are host, port and path. So now for this better view, I am just scrolling up, okay. Here the first step you have to do, forget about all other options that you see. This is for advanced user, or eventually we will get there, but for now concentrate only on what I am saying, because you will not get confused if you follow my approach, okay. Click on the HTTP listener, you will see something like this. You can keep any display name like my first listener or anything, okay. And you have to do control S all the time. You have to save your project all the time. and this is the place where you have to create a configuration. For now there is no configuration created. All that you have to do is click on plus symbol here. Now here is the place where you can see host, port, and it is asking for path. Those are the mandatory configuration details, isn't it? For now I am not going into deep with all these configuration details. Leave as it is. For now, protocol HTTP, leave it to default. We are going to use HTTP protocol only. Host, for now keep whatever is there here, or you can keep local host also here like this, but I always suggest local host is nothing but your 0.0.0.0. leave it like that. Port, you have to use 8081 by default, but if any other software is using this port, you cannot use this port again. For example, if there is any other application, like for example database, and it is using 8081 port, you cannot use the same port. Rather you can change the port here like 8082, but for now I am fine. Nothing is running on 8081 port on my local machine. Okay, to check whether it is running or not, the very good option is test connection here. Click on test connection. Even without deploying, this is the beauty of MuleSoft, even without deploying the application, it will test whether any port is being used, 8081 can be used or not. I got test connection successful. You can also try from your side. Okay, if test connection is successful, we are all good. Just click OK. Okay, and save it. Every time you have to save it, this red mark should go. You can see there is a red mark still here, right? And there is an error message here because I told you, right, mandatory host port is done, but we haven't configured the path here. Okay, so any path you can keep like /. For now I will write test. That is our base path. Imagine we have done this part in our RAML, designing of our RAML. That's it. Very simple. Configuring HTTP listener is very simple. If you drop here, or you can now don't again click on, if you want to view the configuration, you don't have to click plus symbol. Okay, don't click plus symbol because it will try to add. If I do like plus symbol again instead of viewing and click on OK, what is happening? Two configurations are created with the same port. That will give error. How to delete this? The second one, that is where global elements is there. Okay, I told you, right, any configuration details will be appearing over here in global elements. This is the second one that I have created. Click on it, just delete it. Do you see any lines of code that I am writing? It's about dragging and dropping, clicking, right? It's all about clicks and configuration. Okay, if you want to see your existing configuration, you have to click this edit button, but not the plus button. You will get confused. Even I have done all these small mistakes earlier, so that's why I am saying click on edit. You can see all your configurations like 8081 etc. here. Okay, very simple. Hope you are doing parallelly with me. And the second connector is set payload connector. I told you by default the value is always hash payload. Okay, so this fx is like if you are writing, so here you can see there is, if you click on fx, it will consider as like plain payload. This is like string, but if you click on fx, this is some syntax. Okay, if I am not enclosing, if I am enclosing something within double quotes, that is a plain string value, which means actual payload. But if I am not giving any double quotes within this hash and square brackets, you can see square brackets, then that means it is a payload is a syntax, means whatever the sender or the consumer is sending, it will give that value or the same value, it will carry the same value. But for now I want to do something like hello world. This is the normal example that everyone in any technology they use, right? Hello world. I will add this is Sravanlingam. Okay, hello world within double quotes, and fx is enabled. Okay, please try to enable fx and start coding. If you are removing fx, it will be in black color quotes, and if you are clicking on fx, it will be in green color. Okay, these are very important. Click simple, very okay. We have HTTP listener and set payload. This is a simple REST application, which means whenever I run something, it should give hello world. Whenever I run a URL, it should give hello world. This is Sravanlingam. All that you have to do is right click on your canvas. You will get multiple options. Click on run project. Okay, this will start running your project, where you can see now console, you can see something. I told you, right, when I was explaining Anypoint Studio, left side is called Project Explorer. This is the canvas where we can drag and drop the connectors and create the flows. Right side is the Mule palette where you have connectors, and this is the console where you can see logs and all. Until and unless you see deploy successful, status deploy, you should wait. It will take a bit of time. You might face some errors because you are new and your Anypoint Studio setting up Anypoint Studio might be new. So don't worry, just put your questions on your comment section, we will help you. Now you can see the status is deployed. When you see this like application, this is your application name. Domain, it is always default. Status, it is deployed. Okay, when you see this deploy, we are good. Our application is up and running only in our local. When I say local, that means if you go to new URL, how to test this? I told you, right, this is the RESTful application. For example, if it is like bbc.com and click on some sport, okay, it is giving some information. We have done similar to that. We have some information that will be displayed. What I will do is I will copy everything. I will change according to my needs. First of all, here this is not HTTPS because in my code, in my HTTP listener, if you go to global elements from here, you can find from here as well. Click on this and click on edit. My protocol is HTTP, not HTTPS. So I will remove S from here. www.bbc.com. This is the deployed host name. Okay, but I have deployed only on my local. So what you have to do, this one, right, local. Instead of www.bbc.com, what I will do is localhost : 8081. That is the port I am using. Okay, now I have created something called test, not sport here, right? If you go here, whatever is the path, I told you, right, whatever you configure in your code, that is how it comes, right? If I click on sport like this, it says like no listener found for the endpoint because I didn't configure anything for sport. What I have configured? I have configured test. So whatever you give here, please write it here, test. Click on enter. Okay, it is trying to download something. You can go ahead. This is for testing purpose. You can still download and open. You will see a file. Hello world. This is Sravanlingam. All right. Very simple, right? So finally you can see it here. If you still want to see hello world Sravanlingam on your browser, all that I want you to do is delete this set payload connector. There is another connector called transform message which serves the same purpose just like set payload, but it has more added advantage for transform message. I will explain you in the next sessions, coming session. For now, when you drag and drop transform message, there will be some lines of code already written. Don't worry about it because this will be covered in our next sessions. Just type JSON here for now. Remove Java and type JSON. Remove line number 4 and 5. In double quotes, you can write hello world. This is Sravanlingam. Okay, just for now, if you save it, okay, just save it, your console will automatically run. But as you are new users, I always suggest stop the application. You can click on the red button here, or you can right click and stop the application and rerun it again. You will get practice. Okay, now I am deploying my application on local. Let us wait till the deploy status shows deploy. Okay, now the status is deployed. Don't worry about the logs here. Okay, status is deployed. Now I will go back. Instead of sport, I will use test. If I click enter, you can see hello world, this is Sravanlingam. Please follow the same steps from your side as well. Okay, now this hello world Sravanlingam can be run only on my local because I have run this. I have used the protocol as like host as local host. If someone tries, if you go and try in your machine with localhost 8081 test, you won't get this message because it is not running on your laptop. This program is running only in my laptop. How to make, so how, that's why you can see BBC, you won't see localhost. This is a deployed server name, DNS. Okay, That means it is deployed somewhere. That is why it is accessible over internet to everyone. For me to make it accessible to everyone, what I have to do, I have to deploy my application. Again, I'm just showing this only for your purpose. I told you to create Anypoint platform account earlier. Guys, if you haven't created Anypoint platform, please try to create one Anypoint platform using sign up. I showed you the example how to create. Anypoint platform is the place where you can do all the stuff, designing, developing, deploying, right? So actually this part whatever I am showing should be covered around like 10 sessions later, but for now, just for your interest, what I will do is I will deploy this application so that even if you run this URL, you will be seeing that. Okay, just click on runtime manager here. Okay, that is the place where we will be deploying the application. If it is asking for any environment, please choose design environment. Okay, not sandbox. You can deploy in sandbox also, your wish, but for now I am using design. Click on deploy application, just do the same thing. Okay, but before doing this, one small thing we need to do is stop the application. You can right click, stop the project application. Again, this is something which I am teaching the advanced topic just for fun, so that you can try it out something. Just edit the configuration. Don't ask me question why we have to use this, because I will be explaining this later. Use dollar curly braces http dot port. Okay, not this one. Choose host as all interfaces, leave it like that. Only thing is you have to use dollar curly braces open http dot port. Okay, leave it as it is. Leave it as it is. Okay, I'll tell you what this is later. Save it. The global configuration is giving an error. Let's see what it is. This is because I have used wrong bracket. Okay, please use the curly braces. Now the error is gone. Okay, all that you need to do is run it again. The deploy will fail, but don't worry, I will tell you these things in the later sessions. For now, just for your fun, you can do this process. What I have done is, meanwhile this is getting deployed, what I have done is I have changed only one part, and that is removing 8081 and giving http dot port, because 8081 is on my local, that works in my local, but this is your something to deploy in some server or in some cloud. Okay, we don't know which port is available in the cloud. That will be taken care by MuleSoft. How it will be taken care? If you are giving http dot port within dollar symbol within curly braces, the MuleSoft will take care about the port. You don't have to worry about it. It will show the status as failed because it says like it cannot find dollar of http dot port, but don't worry about it. Next thing what you have to do is name your application. Give some unique name for you. I'll say Apex Hours. You can use your name Shravan. Okay, I'll say Apex Hours Shravan. Choose all the default options. I will discuss all these things later. Now there is an option called this one. Okay, now it is asking for you to choose the application. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm using CloudHub 2.0. Let me use CloudHub, not 2.0, but just the CloudHub for now. Okay, not the 2.0. So you can drag and drop. Initially it showed like this. Okay, choose CloudHub, which is like 1.0. Somehow it is not enabling here. So what I will do is I will go to sandbox environment. Okay, click on sandbox. Okay, I will click on deploy application. Same thing, Apex Hours Shravan. Choose for now CloudHub, not 2.0, 1.0. Rest leave it as it is. There is choose file option. Click on upload file. So how to get this file? What you have to do is follow this folder structure. Right click, show in System Explorer. Okay, it will take you to the folder. In Windows machine it will take you directly to the Windows machine. Okay, if you open this Apex Hours, in the target folder you will find a jar file created. Okay, so this jar file we are going to use to deploy our application. What you can do is you can go here. So go to our workspace, Anypoint Studio, Studio Workspace, Apex Hours, target folder, and then this is the jar file. Okay, click on open. Very simple. Click on deploy application. That's it. You don't have to do lot of work, or you don't have to write lines of codes to do that. Okay, I know this first session is like lengthy, but I wanted to show the hands-on as well along with the theoretical part. It will take some time to deploy it. What it is doing, it will do the same thing that we are doing on our local. It will start deploying the application, all this stuff. Okay, you can see the same logs. You will see the same logs here as well. Okay, the only thing is this application is running on our only on our computer. This is like cloud, that is why we call it as cloud platform, right? This is deploying on the cloud. Okay, it is saying like application queue to be deployed, so it will be deployed somewhere in some server. Okay, that's the reason we have to give http.port, because we don't know what is the port number that is free there. Okay, but we don't have to worry about the port numbers and all. Again, all this stuff deployment part we will discuss in session 10. You don't have to worry. Just I wanted to show you like what you can do is, so here localhost 8081 test, I got hello world Sravanlingam, right? But I cannot verify. If you are doing from hands-on from your side, I cannot verify with localhost. So what I want you guys to do is deploy your application. Instead of localhost, you will be getting a new URL. I will show you. Paste your URL whole part on your comment section so that I can verify by clicking on that. If I am getting hello world, this is like whatever your name is there here. Okay, I want you guys to do that. Okay, so that I will verify. Please post your comments along with your URL. I'll show you how to get the URL. Let it get deployed first. It will take some time. Don't worry for the first application, or sometimes it will take 1 or 2 or even 5 minutes. So don't worry about that. All options are default. Here you can see this is your jar file. Again, how to get the jar file? Right click on your application, click on show in System Explorer. So go to that path, copy that path, it will take you there. Apex Hours, within Apex Hours in the target folder, this jar file will be there. Okay, now go back to your Anypoint platform, go to the logs. It is still deploying. I will wait for this application to be deployed. So once it is deployed, what you can do, meanwhile what I can do is, I will go here. You can see app URL is automatically created. All that you need to do is copy. Consider this as bbc.com. Okay, there they are having their own custom domains, but we don't have our custom domain. MuleSoft will create a default app URL here. What you can do is, instead of localhost 8081, just paste everything. The protocol is http:// this is your, now this will be your new deployed URL, and this will be accessible to everyone. Even you can try. I will keep it for few days so that you can test this even from your side. Just you can just type it on your website, you will get this one. Okay, you can see my application is deployed successfully. It will show a green button here. It is started. Now if I run this URL and enter, it is saying hello world, this is Sravanlingam. Sometimes it will say not secure because we are using HTTP protocol, not HTTPS. Now even if you copy paste on your browser in your system, you will be seeing hello world, this is Sravanlingam. You will get this response. This part you will not get. Localhost you will not get, because localhost is local to myself. Okay, what I have done, I have reviewed earlier. It was like localhost : test, right? This will work only on my system, but this will run even in your system. So all that I want you guys to do is, please deploy an application with your name. Okay, and comment this whole URL in the comment section. I will test it, and if it works, I'll give you a thumbs up. Okay, so hope you like this session. So that is very quick summary. Okay, what we have learned so far, we have learned a lot in the first session itself. So Mule message structure, Anypoint Studio, Mule project structure, introduction to flow, subflow, private flow, we will learn a lot about in our coming sessions. Listener, payload, of course I use transfer message connector here for building a simple RESTful application. This is all we have learned in this session. Hope you like this session. See you in our coming session. Until then, please don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms here. And this is MuleSoft-TechZone is my YouTube channel. You can follow me, and you can follow me on LinkedIn and my website as well. Hope you like this session, and see you in the next session.